Cannibal Abduction is a third-person survival horror game where you as Henry find yourself trapped inside a stranger's house after your car breaks down in the middle of nowhere. The game is available on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch.
Just the road and I. What the? No, baby, don't do this to me now! Shit! Great.
What a day to end up stranded, huh?
Oh, thank God. Could I get a lift? This heap of junk just died on me.
Sure thing, son. But I wouldn't leave you.
Atmosphere. The house is dark and run down, the wallpaper is peeling, everything has fallen into neglect, doors are nailed shut for some reason, and you can't shake the feeling that you aren't alone in the house. There's an eerie silence as you walk through the rooms, and the tension is palpable. Though the atmosphere also comes from the setup too. After being rescued by a farmer, Henry offers to fix a wardrobe in his home in trade for the farmer repairing his car.
Welcome to the Tucker Farm, son.
Must be pretty boring around these parts.
You would be surprised. Some things happen out here folks wouldn't believe.
Though after a few hours, Henry realizes he's been locked in the room and something is very wrong. The diary entries you find reveal this weird mentality taking over the family, and the final red flag is that the game is called Cannibal Abduction. The game uses a VHS effect that indicates how close the antagonist is, and this causes various levels of apprehension and dread, as the static not only makes it harder to see, but tells you that you're in impending danger. There's only a few small things that bring the atmosphere to tension and apprehension, which is all it really needs to set things up for the scares. That's one Harry Mason. Scares. The game's scares come in the form of the roaming antagonist, and pretty much just that. The antagonist seems to be in the house at all times, and upon seeing you will chase after you until you get away from them. It's hard to see what they look like because the game's so dark, so the unidentifiable form has this sort of mystique to it, along with the loud and terrifying sound that follows with the panic of trying to escape using tank controls in a series of small and narrow rooms. Though again with roaming antagonists, it's all based on luck and how well you manage to avoid them. Your mileage may vary, but you can't avoid them forever, and when you do bump into them, things get frantic. That's two Harry Masons. Sound design. The game's audio has a few problems and is very limited in what it does and what it tries to do. The game obviously goes for the low-budget PlayStation vibe, but it ends up feeling sparse. There's very little to no music besides the chase music, which is a menacing electronic drone, like the sound of a serrated knife passing through your ears, but the rest of the game's eerie silence only extends so far, and it would have been nice to have more music in the game. The sound effects are pretty decently realistic, with even some ambiance with fire crackling in one of the rooms, though the pool of sound effects is very small and they end up repeating a lot. The dialogue is a little rough and you can tell that the low-budget vibe is playing its hardest here. The main character Henry is not really convincing at all in some of his emotions. There's not a great deal of dialogue in the game either, which makes these moments stand out more. The sound design fits into what you expect from a low-budget game, but it does seem like there really could have been more effort put into it. That's still two Harry Masons. Gore. For a lot of the game, the gore is implied in the diary entries, but it's not long before you find out the source of what they were talking about, and for the limited graphics, it's pretty gnarly with a room full of literal buckets of blood and dismembered and dissected corpses on tables with viscera leaking out and blood splattered up the wall. It's a shocking scene in comparison to the run-down but ordinary house that lies above it, but it is something that you almost see coming. It is still very good and presented well enough. That's three Harry Masons.
After you.
Story.
So,
The story follows Henry as he's out racing his dad's car when it gives out on the road and a kindly stranger stops to help Henry. He tows his car back to the farmhouse and offers to repair it for him if he fixes a wardrobe in his attic. After a few hours of repairing the wardrobe, Henry realizes the door is locked and something is horribly wrong. The game's story follows the typical trope of not trusting kindly strangers, and so much of it is given away by the game's title, but there's still some interesting things to find in the diary entries that tell a story of the family of before the events of the game, and it starts to get really interesting with the concept of the Tucker family being corrupted from some kind of strange radio wave. But the game sadly doesn't go anywhere with this, and its ending comes very abruptly to never really address what it was. The game is only an hour or so long and it feels like it was cut short. The interesting parts are just underutilized, making the final score 3 out of 5 Harry Masons. Cannibal Abduction sets itself up to be fun, but it could have been so much more based on the things that they started. Without really having to change much in the way of game's mechanics or the horror elements, more music, a longer story that explores the themes that they set up, it really could have been great. Again, I'd like to remind you the whole thing is down to my opinion in horror games. If you don't share this opinion, then that's cool, I get it. I'd like to point out that whilst I escaped Tucker Farm, I didn't go back for my car and advise you don't either. There'll be more horror reviews in the pipeline, and thanks for watching. Always go check out Bumps in the middle of the night. Peace.